introduction. Thanks for the organizers. And yeah, I hope you find my talk interesting. Okay, now, since I will be talking a little bit more about about other sources of information, of course. And the talk is entitled "Do drug dossiers of pharmaceutical companies provide indeed additional information on study methods compared to journal publications?" Which already is our main research question. So let me give you some background here. So since the latest healthcare reform in Germany in 2011, pharmaceutical companies, they have to submit dossiers for early benefit assessments of drugs that access the German healthcare market. And these dossiers, they contain tabular descriptions of study methods for those relevant RCTs in the appendix of the dossier templates. And these descriptions of study methods, they have to adhere to CONSORT, including the items 2b to 14b, and they have a mandatory participant flow diagram. Now, CONSORT is also the standard of reporting in many medical journals that endorse the CONSORT statement. So we were wondering, in direct comparison, who would do better, tabular description or these publications? Our objective was then to evaluate to what extent tabular descriptions in drug dossiers contain additional CONSORT-relevant information on study methods compared to journal publications. Secondly, we wanted to investigate the effect of the CONSORT endorsement status of journals on that additional information, and we wanted to examine the effect of journal publications' supplementary study information, such as the study protocol or the statistical analysis plan on the additional information. Our main selection criteria for studies and journal publications were the following. We choose studies from the first 10 drug dossiers that have been submitted for benefit assessment. We took the RCTs with a new drug and where the clinical study report was available. For journal publications, we selected those publications that were cited by the company. If there was more than one publication cited, we choose the primary publication, which was the publication that reported results first. We assessed the journal publications, including all the available supplementary materials like web appendices, and also other journal publications that might have been cited by the primary study publication on details on the study methods. We had two reviewers independently assessing the additional relevant information in the tabular descriptions compared to the publications, and that was done for the individual items 2b to 14b. So in total for 22 different study items. For each of those study items, the information in the tabular description was then categorized on the basis of the CONSORT requirements as fully new information, that means without any information in the publication, partially new information with already some information in the publication, or no new information. The CONSORT requirements, or what we defined as relevant information, was defined on the basis of the CONSORT 2010 explanation and elaboration paper by Moher and colleagues. We analyzed all the assessed CONSORT items, 2b to 14b, although the CONSORT checklist groups them partially under different subheadings like introduction, methods, and results. However, we considered that also the items 2b, 13, and 14 provide valuable information about or for the assessment of study methods. Hence, we look across all those different items here. So the analysis was done. We looked at the additional information as percentage of items with new information, and then we further characterized the individual CONSORT items by looking at the percentage of studies with that new information. So in 10 drug dossiers, we identified 27 RCTs with a new drug. For 26 of those studies, the company provided a tabular description. That's why, not a tabular description, but a journal publication. That's why one study here was excluded from further analysis. So what we were looking at now is the pool of 26 studies in a comparison of tabular descriptions and journal publications. Most of the studies here were published in the New England Journal of Medicine, in total 50%, followed by the Journal of Hand Surgery, the American volume, Neurology, and Lancet. We noticed that most studies were published and, of course, also in journals that endorsed the CONSORT statement, in total 20, and also the majority provided supplementary information in the web appendices, such as, or information on methods and results in 18 publications. Among those 18, actually 6 provided the supplementary protocol and the statistical analysis plan. And we had one publication that actually cited another paper for the details on study methods. Let's turn to the results. The overall amount of the additional information here per study displayed as the percentage of items per study with no partially or fully new information as average across the studies. We can see that the tabular descriptions of the dossiers, they provide additional information in 40% of the items, of which 13% reported fully new information and 27% reported partially new information. For the remaining 60% of the items, no new information was available in the tabular description. Looking at it in more detail across the different CONSORT items, displayed here as the percentage of studies with fully new in red, partially new in yellow, and no new information in green, we observed that the items with most partially new information were actually the items 11A, 6A, and 4A. That means in those items, at least 60% of the studies provided partially new information on, for instance, eligibility criteria of participants, secondary outcomes, or the information about who was blinded, which is a lot of partially new information. The most prominent item with fully new information was item 6B. Here, 50% of the studies provided fully new information about changes to the trial outcomes after the trial commenced, which was usually information about the inclusion of an additional secondary outcome after the trial commenced, information that was not available at all in the publication. Now, as you can see from the plot, these were not the only 4 items with a lot of new information. Indeed, in 50% of all the assessed items here, we had at least 50% of the studies provided additional information in the tabular descriptions. Let's turn to the second result, the effect of the CONSORT endorsement status on the additional information. Here again, as the percentage of items per study with no partially and fully new information, but for studies, separately for studies that were published in journals that endorse the CONSORT statement versus not endorse the CONSORT statement, we show that the tabular descriptions here provided more fully new information for studies that were published in journals that do not endorse CONSORT, suggesting that those journals indeed suffer a lower publication or quality of reporting, if you like. Looking at it again in more detail across the different CONSORT items for journals that endorse CONSORT versus not endorse CONSORT, we can see that this effect's mainly driven by differences in a few items dealing with sample size, randomization here, or the time periods of recruitment and follow-up. Finally, the effect of the supplementary information in the form of the protocol and statistical analysis plan. For that, we particularly looked only at studies in a single journal, here at the New England Journal of Medicine. And the data is displayed here again as the percentage of items with no partially and fully new information, but separately for studies with or without the protocol and statistical analysis plan. What we find is that the tabular description provides more additional information, both partially and fully new information for studies published without a supplementary study protocol, suggesting that a CONSORT endorsing journal like the New England Journal of Medicine can further increase the reporting quality by just simply adding or providing supplementary information in the form of a protocol and a statistical analysis plan. And looking at it again in more detail across the different CONSORT items for studies with supplementary information versus without, we can appreciate that the difference between those studies can be found at nearly all items. Summary and conclusions, we'd like to show here, or what we showed here was that the tabular descriptions in drug dossiers indeed provide additional information on study methods compared to publications. That additional information is then publicly available soon after the introduction of new drugs into the German healthcare market. We also show that the additional information, or there's more additional information for studies published in journals that do not endorse the CONSORT statement, confirming that the CONSORT statement improves reporting quality. And we found more additional information for studies that were published without a supplementary study protocol, suggesting that excuse me, even the New England Journal of Medicine as a CONSORT endorsing journal can increase the reporting quality. We'd like to actually conclude on that journals should request the submission of study protocols as a compulsory prerequisite for accepting a manuscript for publication. Thank you very much for your attention.